Good evening, sir.
Hello, how are you, Colin?
How are you?
Settling down, still processing, still wondering what's going on. Yeah.
A few hours since the final whistle went. Emotion still running high?
Like the game itself, the few hours afterwards have been an emotional roller coaster for a number of reasons. Mostly processing the game and wondering what the hell it all means.
Well, go on then. What's your gut response to that, to what you witnessed?
Gut response is always coloured by how things ended. And how it ended was us hanging on. And I just can't help but be slightly delighted by those wonderful saves by Ramsdale that, meant we didn't lose. And that has to be seen as something positive. So I will try to focus on the positives.
Okay, right.
I think it's, in the cold light of day, it will be a better result than it feels. But I'm not there yet.
Yeah, you're not there yet. Okay. I mean,
what about you?
Well, it's funny because all I can think and feel is that I was absolutely right to fear that game as much as I did all week.
We all did.
All day. Nothing happened in that game that I enjoyed at all. As I messaged you after we went 1-0 up and then 2-0 up, too early. I hate this. I hate this. I was all over the place. And my real kind of takeaway is that was absolutely a point gained.
Yeah.
Liverpool's last home game was a 7-0 battering of Manchester United, which they were the second best team in for 44 minutes. And that's what that ground can do, that crowd can do.
Yeah.
They out of nothing, they're all over you. And the fact that we didn't capitulate is, as someone tweeted, if you're upset with the draw away at Anfield, that's an indication of just how far this team has come.
Some people are, though.
Yeah, fine. That's so that's kind of your gut response. Yeah, fine. I'm on board with that. However, every kind of constellation, I think, is followed very quickly by, if only that Martinelli pass had found Saka, we'd be celebrating another Bournemouth moment.
Yeah, as a friend of mine messaged throughout the game, or actually just after the game, he said the game almost raises more questions than it gives answers, and there'll be a lot of those moments that are poured over, what if this, what if that.
Well, ultimately, we won't know until the last game of the season.
Yes.
Or until such a time as the title's won. I do love how everybody's just assuming that Man City are going to win every one of their remaining games. I think that's which they might well do, but that's their tough spell hasn't started yet.
They've got to go to the leaders. They've got to host the leaders in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be a tough game for them.
I'd like to think so.
Right. Okay. So, what are your three takeaways from the game then?
Okay.
So you've had a few hours to kind of assimilate, process. What are your three takeaways then?
Do you want me to list them and then go through them, or just take them one by one?
One at a time.
Okay. So the first one, the thing I've written down, because I can't help but think about, words to express the sort of feelings, and being an English teacher, I always like to sort of, broaden the vocabulary a bit. And the word that keeps coming to me is ambivalence. Because actually what I'm seeing online is this complete contrast. There are some people who are furious that we've dropped points, and especially, having lost a lead as well. Then there's the other people who are sort of reasoning that it's Anfield and it's a point gained and all those sorts of things. So essentially, Arsenal fans, as I am, are somewhere between relief at having got a point at Anfield at least and not lost and all those sorts of things, and disappointment, because we started so well. That first 30 minutes was brilliant. I can't remember us having such a dominant spell at Anfield almost ever. I'm sure we have, but maybe the last time we won, 2012, Abu Dhabi, amazing game. So it is disappointing that we then lost that lead. But essentially, it's okay to feel both of those things. We can be relieved to come away with a point, and we can be disappointed that we probably could have, developed more out of the game. But yeah, the word is ambivalence. So my one takeaway is that, and it's going to be that kind of game that people are going to wrestle with. And you've just made a very good point that we actually won't know the significance of that until much later. But at the same time, even if, the title comes down to a point here and there, goal difference possibly, there are other results along the way which have a lot more injustice built into them. We think of the VAR decisions against Brentford at home, United away. Those ones are going to feel a lot more sour than perhaps this is. This was a football match that went one way and then swung the other, and it was just chaos really. And the fact that I did watch Arteta's post-match on the BBC just before we came on, and he said, actually, when you look at that first opening spell, you've just got to focus on that. We came to Anfield, we controlled the game, we bossed it. Yes, we got to learn some lessons from what happened after, but not many teams come there and dominate in that way. So performance-wise, they've got to take that positive from that bit of the game and try and build from there. Yeah.
Okay. Your second takeaway.
Second takeaway is the three Gabbies. Martinelli, excellent for his goal, a wonderful run inside and a deft little finish as well. Gabriel Jesus in the first half did some wonderful things, that little juggling bit that he did, and then a no-look pass to release, I think it was Martinelli down that side as well. Brilliant link-up play. That, that combination is frightening when they are on it. Yeah, Jesus lost his composure a little bit later on, felt a few fouls, didn't sort of go his way. Konate, who he had the better of initially, grew into the game, but was allowed to grow into the game. The ref seemed to allow his aggression. And I don't think he did anything particularly abhorrent, Konate. I thought actually he had a very good game. But Jesus let that get to him. But then at the same time, Gabriel at the back is just brilliant. With Saliba out, Holding coming in, who did okay. Penalty, okay. But Gabriel, I think, has been excellent. I don't think, the first goal is what it is. He's trying to cover. Zinchenko's at centre-back for that moment. That's a funny one to pick apart.
That Liverpool goal was a fluke.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Henderson miscued it, and, Gabriel actually kicked it against.
But we did leave ourselves open to that. Salah had a counter attack one-on-one, missed the target. They did have spell. Even as dominant as we were in that first spell, Liverpool are always going to be dangerous. They've got world-class players. There's no getting away from that. As dodgy as their season is and as great as ours is, the class of someone like Salah is sort of permanent. But yeah, Gabriel, just wanted to make the point that all three of the Gabbies were excellent at times today.
Yeah, and that's Jesus's second start.
Yeah,
so he's still feeling his way back into fitness, absolutely. Match fitness. So and that'll do well. And your final takeaway?
Wait, 2 words: Aaron Ramsdale. Oh my God! I've messaged out. Yes, I doubted him when we signed him. I absolutely questioned it. And now I'm worried that we're underappreciating him. Some of the saves he has made, I'm thinking Villa. I'm thinking Spurs away. And today, again, he's won that point for us. Yes. That is his point that he's won. That save at the end should be put in a museum. Someone posted a picture of it as a still image online. It's just incredible. Shades of that Leicester free kick that he saved last season. He's amazing. I just absolutely love him. Absolutely love him.
Yes.
Aaron Ramsdale.
Yeah, that's funny because he's also my third takeaway as well.
Has to be, doesn't it?
So, okay, I hate to do this, but my first takeaway is I don't want to say it's a negative one, but Arteta substitutions. In particular, the one I'd focus on will be Ødegaard.
Right.
Although it felt like we're under a lot of pressure, someone did tweet out that in the 22 minutes before Ødegaard was taken off, Liverpool didn't have one attempt on goal. And that changed. That handed an initiative to them. So I question that. And also, if you're that concerned about your defensive setup, then surely the change you do make often, and the change you did make, Tierney on for Zinchenko, should have happened before 86 minutes and the Liverpool goal. So yeah. I don't want to dwell on that as a negative, but I think as a young coach, young manager, he's learning, obviously, and maybe in retrospect he might have done something slightly different with his substitutions, possibly, but with hindsight only, perhaps. That's easy for me to say. So that's my first takeaway.
Do you know what it reminds me of a little bit? Guardiola in the late stages of the Champions League, where maybe just overthinks it a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
And Arteta has obviously worked under him. You just wonder if they're trying to, do something a bit different that ends up, sort of unsettling things a little bit.
Yeah, and that's definitely the Ødegaard change. The Tierney for Zinchenko is a change that he does quite a lot.
Yeah.
So that could have happened earlier than it did. My second takeaway is I seem to have gone a bit negative in my first two, but is the referee. I thought he succumbed to the pressure of the cop. I feared at half time. I messaged you at half time that I think that I've never thought he was a strong referee. Now I know we've had a couple of issues, not necessarily with him, but with the games he was in. He refereed the Manchester United away game, but it wasn't him that disallowed the Martinelli goal. It was VAR. So he can't be held accountable for that necessarily. But he gave he let so many fouls go from Liverpool, in particular Andy Robertson, who put in two interesting challenges in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the second half on a yellow card. Could easily have either one of those could easily have been a yellow card offence, but no. And I know the Arsenal players were complaining too much. I felt they were looking to the referee too much towards the end of that first half, which was a worry for me because they were not thinking about their own game anymore. They were thinking about how it was being refereed, and that's never the way to go. They became emotional, which is fine. Of course, how could they not? When you've got someone like Micah Richards after the game say that he feels it's the best game of football he's ever watched. But that's the emotion. He's immediately
in terms of entertainment and emotion and passion. It's up there. Yeah, and
to play in that must be just something completely alien to the vast majority of us. So that's my second takeaway. The referee, I did think he was weak.
What's your thoughts on the pen?
I think I'd want it down the other end. If it was a soft, no question about that, it's soft. But if my defender or my attacker is on the receiving end of that challenge and goes down, I want a penalty all day long. I do believe it was soft. I think it was clever from Jota. Holding wasn't going to get to the ball, and I have no issues with that. I know Arsenal Twitter went into meltdown, the injustice of it all, and it was somewhat karma that Salah missed. It wasn't. It was just fantastic and a relief that he missed. Yes, he did. I hadn't realised. I hadn't remembered that he missed the penalty at Bournemouth.
Yes,
a couple of games ago as well. So I didn't think for a second he was going to miss. I did, as much as, and I'll mention my third one in a minute. As much as we both love Ramsdale, I didn't think he was going to save it.
Has Ramsdale ever saved a pen?
I don't know. For us,
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Maybe not.
Nothing stands out.
No. And so my third takeaway is, I wrote it down, it started off with Ramsdale immense. But then I went further. I said the whole team demonstrated real resilience. That was some immense pressure. And last time out at Anfield, Liverpool swatted away Manchester United 7-0. So that's what can happen to you. It was 1-0 at 44 minutes. That's what can happen at Anfield. So, and then my kind of segue into the real takeaway is that I'm actually more confident now about this team than I was at kickoff.
Really?
Yeah, because that was our hardest game. I believe that game today was more difficult than the Man City away game is.
So we've got Man City in a couple of weeks. Why do you think today would be more difficult?
Just
given
because
Liverpool are what, 7th, 6th, 7th?
Doesn't matter. I think they were 8th at the start of play. I don't know about now. It doesn't matter. As I just said to you, they beat Manchester United 7-0 their last time at Anfield. We have not won there since 2012. There's something about, and you could hear Roy Keane say it, and Gary Neville say it.
First point at Anfield in 7 years.
So there's something about Anfield that's different to other away grounds. I think Newcastle away is probably, in terms of atmosphere, when the crowd are up, probably the most similar.
As they will be.
But they don't have as high quality player as Liverpool do. And they don't have that experience and nous as Liverpool do. Yeah, Liverpool having a poor season, but they've still got world-class proven players who can do you all ends up in a heartbeat. So I actually think, and also, don't forget, the Man City Arsenal game, Man City have to beat us. I mean, I use that in air quotes, but they have to beat us. So it adds another layer of pressure to them, for them. Whereas Liverpool, I may have written this down later on again. Liverpool rested 6 players midweek to play against us. And I don't want to say this was their cup final, but we've had that thrown at us a few times.
Sure.
So I really believe that that out of all our remaining games, the Liverpool away game was the most difficult.
The irony of you mentioning cup finals is on the ticker tape at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
We keep talking about these games to finish the season as cup finals. So,
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah. So it's another one down that we didn't lose. So that's why I'm more confident, because I think the team acquitted themselves really well. I think they'll learn an awful lot from it as well. That first 35 minutes, superb. And then it got emotional. Unrelated to the takeaways, the commentary team seemed absolutely hell-bent on blaming Xhaka.
Right, yes.
For getting the crowd involved. I'm not so sure about that.
I disagree completely. And there's a lot of rhetoric around Xhaka. We all sort of make a joke that he's a yellow or a red card waiting to happen. But actually, for the best part of at least a year now, he's not been that player.
Well, he got his 5th yellow card of the season only, and he's played pretty much every minute.
Well, exactly. And so he's not been that sort of liability. He's not had to be that combative in midfield because he's been playing slightly more forward and all those sorts of things. And it was a bit of a nothing moment. Yeah. I've read some things where people say, oh, no, they both throw an arm, so they both could have been sent off. But I think actually that was one moment that Tierney, the ref, kind of got it right, because, a red card would be ridiculous, I think, in that instance. Yellow card, calm down, guys. Sort yourselves out and crack on.
And that didn't get the crowd up. A minute later, Liverpool scored. That got the crowd up. Got the
crowd up because they're back in it. Absolutely right. Because they would, let's face it, people forget they were chipping off at our players way before that, because they felt that that we were doing lots of time wasting. I don't know if it came before, but obviously when Gabriel went down with his head, he headed away across and then went down, held his head. Ramsdale complained about something with his eye on 20 minutes, which is becoming a bit of a pattern where Arteta wants his kind of mid first half, team get together on the touchline. Yeah. And the crowd were chipping off about a lot of this. So to say Xhaka somehow instigated this flashpoint that then kick-started, the crowd, it's overblown because of who the player is.
Yeah.
Another player does that. Gabriel Jesus was peed off at one point because he felt he should have had a free kick when he didn't get one, and then got straight up and was waving his arm and gesticulating to the crowd. Again, the crowd are lively at that point as well. So yeah, the Xhaka thing is just a sort of lazy narrative that the pundits want to jump on, really. But
yeah. So and that did irk me in the game. I was getting irritated. I find myself getting irritated by Martin Tyler quite a lot these days. But anyway,
it's why I tend to prefer just being at the game, because you just see it how you want to see it. Then it's a different experience.
Okay, so looking ahead to next weekend's game,
West Ham,
which is on Sunday, 2:00 kickoff. Is it the early kickoff?
I think it's 2:00. I'm not sure actually.
I've got just another question. I've just thought of a question.
Yeah.
We've got 7 days to prepare for this. Is that too long?
I know what you're trying to say, because what they're going to be doing is a lot of analysis about what's happened here today at Liverpool. But I don't know. You wouldn't need players, on the training ground, working on things, improving things. You want to give certain players a bit more time to recover. Saliba, I don't think is hugely far away. Nketiah off the bench is at least an option. Yeah, but I know what you mean. Actually, if they were going into a game 2 or 3 days later, you could just go for it, not think about it.
I had this thought during the week because I was observing how I was feeling, and I'm like chomping at the bit. I'm like, the players must be just desperate to get on the pitch and get the next game in, get the next game done.
Even Ben White.
Well, I don't know what I want someone to ask him what he does actually do.
I'm sure there's stuff out there. I'm sure there's a famous quote going around that someone asked him, what you would do if you wasn't a footballer, and he said something like a gardener.
Well, his dad's a landscape gardener, and he wanted to join the dad's business. But I'd like to know what he does now in the evenings, if not watch football. What does he do?
Maybe.
Anyway, that maybe somebody knows, or somebody can ask him. So looking ahead to West Ham next week, what 3 things then are you looking out for, or what 3 things do you think we should keep in mind ahead of that?
Well, the first thing I want us to do is to focus on the control and the composure of the first 30 minutes that we had today. It was calm. It was relaxed. We played out from the back when we needed to, and then we played some nice quick passes through. I mean, it felt like that first goal that Martinelli scored happened in slow motion, because it was such a quick turn. Yeah, Robertson slipped, but Saka was looking to receive that ball on the turn, and then we were just away. And if we play with that kind of sharpness and that kind of focus, West Ham will struggle. West Ham will approach the game completely differently, you would assume. I haven't watched their recent games, but having, and they have had a couple of wins. They've played Fulham at an interesting time when Fulham are sort of, tailing off from the high standards that they've set. But West Ham will be delighted with those wins. They will be building little bits of confidence. But,
well, actually, they lost 5-1 to Newcastle 2 games ago.
They lost 5-1 to Newcastle
at home.
Yeah.
And they were quite lucky to beat Fulham 1-0 yesterday from all accounts.
Right.
But I'm pleased they did win, because
look, if we play with the levels we set in that first part, it's just about putting the game to bed as early as possible. It won't be easy. West Ham will be a nuisance big time.
So that's one thing to look at. But I've written that down as well. Looking for another controlled, fast start.
Yeah.
And not lose your heads. Not that we did lose our heads, really. To be fair, we just got caught up in what was a very highly charged, emotional game, and that's fine. No red cards. We'd 5 yellow cards or whatever it was, but they all managed to maintain their own self-discipline. Okay, what's your next thing to look at?
The second one is about West Ham themselves. Yes, they've had a couple of good wins, but from the match reports that I've read, the style of football they're playing is pretty dire. So expect a trudge, expect something more akin to Everton under Dyche, that new manager bounce, lots of focus on set pieces and things like that. So it's going to require focus and attention. But ultimately, I think it's finding that balance between going out confidently, but not taking things for granted. It's got to be a professional performance to put a team that we should beat into the category of have beaten. So yeah, not much really, but it's just about their style of football. We've got to dictate the play. We've got to get that ball on the deck, play quick passes, lots of movement, get those early goals,
and be patient, because which is something we have been. We've not panicked in games before, where we've been dominant. Not like tonight, not like today's game where we weren't dominant, but in games where we are dominant, and we look at the Bournemouth game, we just kept going. We just kept going, and ultimately, we know we're going to create chances. And what's your final thing?
The final thing is Rice. He's the main dish for them. See what I did there?
Very good.
But he's just a quality player. You know, he's got to be the player that we try and, starve of possession, but also try and bypass. You know, he is that kind of box-to-box midfielder. So, you know, perhaps it is about playing a wide game, you know, with Saka, Martinelli, maybe not inverting Zinchenko as much. I don't know. I mean, we probably will. That just seems to be the style now. But yeah, Rice is definitely a sort of pivotal person for them. And I'm also interested because obviously the rumours won't go away that we might be in for him in the summer. So it will be an interesting thing to just watch him a little bit more closely than I have done recently.
Well, the interesting thing about Rice and Zinchenko coming into the middle is that I think they're dangerous player as well is Jared Bowen, who will exploit any gaps that Zinchenko leaves.
Yeah.
Much in the way that Salah was allowed to do that today, perhaps. But speaking on the team, what team would you start with?
I'm not sure I'd make a huge amount of changes. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what state Saliba's in. But I'd probably go with pretty much the same starting 11. But at the same time, you know, I kind of wish I'd seen a little bit more of Trossard today. He's been so good attacking this season, but then, you know, Saka did well in the build up to the first goal. Martinelli scored. Jesus scored.
Saka was the quietest. He was the quietest of
probably,
the front three.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
But I'm not sure Trossard had come in for Saka. No. He's the one of the front three that he wouldn't come in for, really.
Yeah, I think I agree. All just depends on fitness. I mean, I'd probably start with the same team. But if Trossard came in for one of those front three, I wouldn't worry about that either. You know, the fact that we've got those kinds of options is fantastic.
Well, I think Jesus 3 goals in two starts. I think he starts.
He starts. Yeah.
And
Martinelli's in great form.
Yeah, a goal and an assist today at Anfield. He starts, and Saka's the star boy.
Star boy.
I'm still waiting to hear that song for Saka actually on the terraces. I don't know. Okay, have you done your 3? Or are you on to your 3?
Yeah.
Right. I've just written down next game crucial. City will win their next game before we kick off against West Ham. So they will be 3 points behind us.
Next weekend is the FA Cup semi-final.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
No, I don't know. I'm asking.
I thought Man City were playing. It might be. No, I think Man City are playing home to Leicester on Saturday.
Right, okay. So they'll be within 3 points.
Yeah, same games played. And so we have to beat West Ham because then it's us against City. We beat West Ham, we're 6 points clear. What I don't want, what I said this last week, above all else, we have to avoid the possibility of City beating us to go above us.
Yeah.
Now, they can beat us to go 3 points behind us with a game in hand, provided we beat West Ham, because they will beat Leicester City at home to Leicester. I mean, I'm a little bit concerned about their goal difference in that game, to be fair, if I'm honest.
No, I agree. Leicester
I know they play against Bayern Munich this midweek, don't they? So I'm hoping for a really, really tough game against Bayern Munich, where it's still all to play for in the second leg.
I think it will be. It'll be a close game. Tuchel's come in, and you know, he's a quality manager. Bayern will be tough.
I don't know where the first leg is. I think it's at home. Yeah, because they don't have a league game after the second leg. It's the FA Cup semi-final. And who are they playing in that? It's Man United against Brighton. Who are Man City playing?
Sheffield United.
Yes, I think that might be right. Yeah, because they beat Spurs, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Can we all
Absolutely
just
right.
pause and appreciate that for a moment? So for me, that's so my first thing is the next game is crucial. We have to get the 3 points there. And
Like you say, psychologically, them beating us to go above us, that
well, that's what happened. That's
massive
what happened
impact.
when they played us last time, and then they drew the next game, and we went on a 7-game winning streak, which is quite interesting. But we've got slightly more tricky games this time round. Yeah, and then the second thing to look out for was the team selection, and just to kind of work out whether he'd go at the same starting 11. I think Saliba, if he's fit, will come in. But remember, he's been without first team football for about 4 weeks, a month now. Would home to Southampton the following week. Oh, hang on, we'll play Southampton at home before we play Man City again. Right, so we could actually be 9 points ahead of them going into that game. I mean, they'd have 2 games in hand. Yes, so that's what we're looking for right here, is to be 9 points. And if we do win those next 2 games, I think it makes this point at Anfield a better point.
Sure.
Obviously, not picking up 6 points in the next 2 games could be terminal for us.
Devastating.
Yeah.
Guardiola said yesterday, when asked about following their victory against Southampton, is that a sort of message to Arsenal? You're playing well, you're beating teams convincingly, and he said, I'd still rather be in Arsenal's position.
Yeah.
So, they know the advantage of being ahead and being able to try and stay ahead. The impetus is with us, but like you say, we've never been here before. We haven't been here before with this team. So
and
it's
4 points. 4 points from the 2 games against Liverpool. I take that every single season.
Well, 6 points off Spurs, 3 off United, 4 off Liverpool. We beat Chelsea away.
Yeah,
3 off them so far. We've got to play them again. City is the one of the big teams. Drew with Newcastle, got them to play as well. Of the teams that are sort of up there, we are taking points off people sort of around us, but I don't know.
Yes, right.
Yeah, okay. We're at that point.
Yeah. 3 random things then.
Okay.
3 random football-related things, perhaps.
Number 1.
Yes.
Violent linesman. Oh my word. A, Robertson shouldn't be grabbing the official. B, do you know what? Well done, linesman. Show him who's boss, because officials, right now, they all deserve criticism because we've complained so much about the standard, this, that, and the other. However, we all know it tips over. They get far too much abuse, okay, for what they do and the things they do. So, you know what? A linesman standing up for himself, so what? Fair play. And also, it sparked Roy Keane into calling Robertson a big baby.
Yeah.
And that's just...
And I am on board with that.
That's funny.
Robertson complains and whinges, and is a little bit nasty himself as well.
He is. He's a git. He's quality. He's a great player, but he's a git.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Violent linesman. I like that.
Number 2. We've talked about the commentators, and there was another thing I noticed as well, that the moment that the points were dropped, we drew essentially. The commentator quirk of saying dropped points by Arsenal puts the title in City's hands, overlooking the fact that it's still in our hands as well. Everyone sees us as the underdogs. I probably still see us slightly as the underdogs. They are the Galacticos of the Premier League. They've got arguably the world's best manager, with some of the world's best players, with untold wealth behind them. And we're 6 points in front, albeit that they've got a game in hand. The title still is in our hands, but I just know, that twist, that they're just it's like everyone's just been waiting for that blip, that moment. We're still 8 games unbeaten, including a run of games where we've had to go away to Anfield. Do you know what I mean? The spin on everything, a bit like the Xhaka thing we spoke about a few minutes ago, is making it even harder to sort of watch and follow, really. But yeah, that was just something I noticed. Everyone now sees it in City's hands.
I did like Gary Neville say, though, when Carragher was trying to make it much more about 2 points dropped in the title race, now advantage Man City. Gary Neville said, no, you take your point and you run. When Carragher was saying, do Arsenal go for the win now, or do they sit back and just take what they've got? And Gary Neville said, take your point and run. And he referenced in the 1999 treble winning season for them that they actually drew at Anfield. They were leading, and Paul Ince scored a very late equaliser, and all the United players were like, no, this is a point gained.
Yeah.
This is not 2 points dropped. This is a point gained. And the truth of that will out in the end. And as it transpired, it was very much a point gained on their route to glory. I hate that year. That year never happened in my footballing life, but there you go. Okay, is that your 3?
No, number 3. This is about something that happened yesterday. So not watching the games, I was listening on the radio to a few things and generally sort of quietly following the games. The officiating in the Spurs-Brighton game. I have a slightly difference of opinion to what seems to be the majority. The majority of the people are focusing on what should have been a penalty to Brighton, the tackle on Mitoma.
Yeah.
Okay. Which, I probably agree. That probably should have been a penalty.
Well, they've apologised, haven't they?
Yes, they have. I think the other incident where Clement Longley pulls I think it's Dunk's shirt, I think that's more egregious.
Yeah.
Because in the Mitoma one, Højbjerg is at least genuinely trying to play the ball. His foot comes down. It's on Mitoma's. Yeah, he trips him. Okay. It's one of those sort of, in Formula One, they call it a race.
Compare it to Holding's challenge.
Yeah, it's that kind of sort of thing, isn't it? It's clumsy.
It's more a penalty, though, than Holding, I think.
Sure. Yeah, slightly, yeah. Whereas the Longley one, where he pulls his shirt, I mean, that's foul play.
Yeah.
Deliberate foul play. I just felt like that was the one to get more.
Well, they are, though, as well. Brighton have listed 5. They want an explanation about 5 incidents that happened in that game. All of them went against them, including, was it 2 disallowed goals? I didn't see it. I didn't watch it, but 2 disallowed goals. Shoulder. Yeah, which isn't, you're allowed to score with your shoulder.
Well, here's one of the pundits or commentators said that if that ball had hit a defender's arm, would the opposition team want a penalty for handball? And I think most people would. So then you would call it handball the other way and disallow that goal. It's a shame because it was a bloody lovely goal. Ball over the top, controlled volley, first time. But because that Mitoma is some player. But yeah, I mean, I get Brighton's, anger at the decisions, and we keep talking about officiating and the standards of it, and how the technology is employed, because it's not VAR's fault; it's the people using or not using the systems in place to come to these.
Or not even. It's not even not using the systems. It's looking at a replay and not seeing what everybody else can see.
Yeah,
like two blatant penalties. That went against the same team, and that's Brighton's 3rd apology from the PGMOL this season.
We've had 2.
Yeah, we've had 2.
That's crazy.
So it's just incompetence.
So there's 2 teams. We're going for the title. Could miss out from decisions that the PGMOL have apologised for. Brighton, with the position that they sort of are or were in, could be knocking on the door of the Champions League.
If they'd beaten Spurs, they'd be 1 point behind them with 2 games in hand.
Right. There you go. Crazy.
Yeah. No, you're kind of waiting for the first team to sue.
Yeah, you do wonder. A bit like Sheffield United did to West Ham, with the whole Tevez and the Mascherano thing. I did quite like also De Zerbi and Stellini arguing before the game even kicked off. It was amazing. De Zerbi is just such a ball of energy. He's like a Tasmanian devil cartoon. Like, he's just all energy. And like the total antithesis to Potter, who was there before. He's like, Mr. Calm, Mr. Quiet.
And the two Italians, he said, we're passionate. It's all he said it's much ado about nothing. But
right, what about you? Random things.
Well, I kind of struggled with this, and I've probably referenced them already. The first thing I wrote down was that was our hardest game remaining. So I've already kind of explained what I mean by that. Even more difficult than the City away game for other reasons. I just wrote down that was Liverpool's cup final, which I've already referenced as well. They made 6 changes for the game away at Chelsea, and 5 of those came back into the team for us. Now, maybe it was because they had 3 difficult games in a week, but they're going for top 4. Had they beaten Chelsea, they were, and then beaten us, that they were right back in the hunt for fourth spot. Because Manchester United, although they had a decent win yesterday, they're not playing particularly well. Newcastle, well, you never know yet. This is kind of new territory for Newcastle. They could come a cropper yet. You never know. So it was just an odd. It was almost like Klopp had given up the ghost against Chelsea.
I'm not sure it's that. I think when he looked at the 3 games, I think there's an element of trying to continue the good home form that they've had, because it's their away form that's basically kiboshed their season. So you do wonder if he looked at that week and he thought, do you know what, we're playing a Chelsea team that are lacking confidence, so we'll make some changes and sort of see what happens, try and embrace a little bit of chaos in there, and then focus on what we do well at home on Saturday against Arsenal, a team that traditionally, they do well against, because they knew it would be open. They knew we weren't going to sit with a low block for 90 minutes. I don't know. The idea of him sort of throwing in the towel, that's a bit strong. It's a bit strong.
Right. And my final observation, I guess, was that we have been involved in more dramatic, high-octane games this season than I can recall ever in any previous seasons.
Yeah.
Like, even you go back to the Man United game at home. And Nketiah, 90th minute winner, 3-2.
Even just after the World Cup. After the World Cup, we've had Man United, Villa, Bournemouth, and now this. All crazy games.
And this is the first one we're on the wrong side of a late goal with. Yeah. But I mean, not losing the game. If you can't win it, don't lose it. Isn't that the old adage?
Exactly.
And we didn't, even as I've said that, do you know what's just replayed in my mind was that
the counter-attack
space that Martinelli had for Saka. Someone's posted a still on Twitter
of all the space that Saka's running into.
At the moment, Martinelli has the ball. And it's like, it's because of Alisson's starting position so high that made the pass a bad pass. If Alisson was further back, then it's not the worst pass in the world, but he would have done much better to get it closer to Saka's feet, because Saka could have had a first time. Saka would have seen where Alisson was, could have had a first time shot, and then we would be
chipped him.
If it depends on how close Alisson was, yeah.
But that's the thing. I'm saying the word imagine.
Yeah,
it didn't come off. That was also the disappointing thing. As we dropped deeper and Liverpool amped up the pressure, it was their inability to put together a sequence of passes that would relieve that pressure or hit them on the counter that we just couldn't get going. But it's interesting. I didn't pick up on the fact that, you said before Odegaard was taken off, Liverpool didn't have a shot on target for however many minutes.
22 minutes, yeah.
It didn't feel like that. It felt relentless from Liverpool.
Well, did you see the XG?
No.
Liverpool's XG is just under 4. Ours was 1.4, I think. So with the chances they had, they should have scored 4 goals. It's their highest XG. It's also the largest number of shots we've allowed against us in a game this season, 21.
Really?
They battered us on. It felt like that second half was a relentless onslaught on our goal.
Like 2 games, 2 different games.
Yeah.
The first
and all I kept seeing on Twitter were like journalists, Arsenal fans, and so on, just saying, "This is horrible. I hate it. I can't watch this." And of course, like I'm there pacing and wearing down the floor.
Living out. I mean, it's the first time we've been in a proper title race in the era of social media, and it does not help. It does not help.
Amplifies everything.
Yeah, it doesn't help at all. But we're in a title race, and that's amazing.
With 8 games to go.
With 8 games to go, it's still in our hands.
And City's.
True.
Yeah,
absolutely true.
Any final thoughts?
No, I think we've covered it. Like I say, it's one of those games where it could be Wednesday or Thursday this week that I will have some more thoughts about it, because I think I've forgotten in lots more about the game, and I just remember certain instances. The Salah save from Ramsdale, the Konate save, where he's just leaping backwards, and Konate, he can't get his head down high enough, and his feet aren't quite up, so he's trying to kind of stomach it in, and Ramsdale just bats. Oh, just incredible! I was celebrating that like a goal.
It's that breakaway that was the Martinelli and Saka one.
Was it from that moment?
Yeah.
They're all disconnected now.
Well,
they're all in this.
That Konate one came from the corner that Ramsdale tipped Salah's shot, deflected shot around the post for.
My word!
It was just that 90 seconds was insane.
Yeah,
it was off the charts, because Liverpool could have scored twice.
Yeah,
and then we could have scored. Now, obviously, if either one of Liverpool's chances had gone in, then our chance wouldn't have happened, obviously. But
and that's almost what we did to Villa. 2 goals in injury time, errors as they tried to go for it as well, and a point gained, first point at Anfield in 7 years.
We'll win there next year.
Oh, now you sound like a Liverpool fan. It's our year next year.
No, it's our year this year.
I feel sick.
It's too long between games. That's my.
But would you rather us be in the cups and have them to distract us during the week?
No.
Right then.
I'd rather be playing a league game on Wednesday.
Well, it doesn't work like that, so.
No.
Never mind.
Why not?
I don't know.
We could have all our points decided in like 3 weeks. It'd be great. Rather than 6 weeks.
End of season tournament. You play your last 5 games over a weekend.
There you go.
That would definitely favour Man City with their enormous squad.
That's true. Right. Okay. That's it. We'll leave it there. I'm emotionally a bit spent.
Oh, me too.
After that, relief, I think. With a twang of what might have been.
Yeah.
But anyway, right. Have a good week, and
we'll
catch up again after West Ham. You're going to West Ham.
I am going to West Ham, so it might be a late one, but on the Sunday.
It's 2 o'clock
we'll do
it.
it.
So not
and then back to work on the Monday.
Shh. Right. Enough about that. Okay. Have a good one. Take care.